Welcome back to The Outcome is Income, where we empower you with the knowledge to make smarter financial decisions. I'm your host, Chance Robinson, and today we have a special episode that's a must-listen for anyone interested in the intersection of real estate and retirement planning. Joining us is Adaniel Zoga.
Thanks for having me.
All right. A seasoned real estate expert who will share invaluable insight on how to leverage real estate for a secure and prosperous retirement. If you find our content helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our episodes. Let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of your start? What got you into real estate and the passion for what capacity that is that you do now?
Absolutely. So my real estate journey started in 2008. So talk about timing, right?
Yeah.
Market just crashed, unemployment rate at its highest, panic and chaos in the marketplace. And I had just graduated college at the time. So my very first career was to get into real estate because I couldn't get any other job out there.
Okay.
Again, you had people that were a lot more qualified with experience. Then you had somebody just out of college trying to compete with that, workplace applicants. So for me, I got into real estate and I learned pretty quickly that, so what happened is I got into my first brokerage, and usually your first year they team you up with someone, a veteran typically, that's gonna train you in your first few transactions and also act as a mentor.
Right.
The problem is that a lot of these veterans were having a hard time making ends meet, right? Because they were used to a certain volume, and now everything just kind of condensed. So their priorities did not align with mine. I wanted to be there to learn, get some experience. They were trying to make ends meet. So teaching me was at the bottom of their priorities.
Right.
I lasted in that industry less than a year before I got into other industries. Now, the thing about it, though, is when I left real estate, because I'm a very competitive person, it left me with a very sour taste in my mouth. Mm-hmm. That was my very first ever failure.
Got it. Yeah.
Coming out of college. So the next industries, I spent about 10 plus years in different industries, from banking, lending, law enforcement. And I was a top performer in every industry. Fast forward to today, 3 years ago, the opportunity presented itself for me to get back into real estate. And it reminded me of that moment, my very first failure.
Oh, yeah.
So I had this chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
I had to prove to myself. I proved it in every other industry but real estate. And, that combined with the fact that I wanted to have some sort of impact, in people's lives, which obviously real estate is one of the biggest purchases that they will make for most people. Combining the two, it was just kind of natural, came natural to me. And that's why I pursued. I got back into real estate. That's my driving force till this day.
And kind of speaking to that, like, you picked a hell of a time to get into it,
Right.
Like, right at that time frame. So even though you chalk that as one on your list for a failure, it's real. I mean, the entire industry was falling apart at this time, and I know because I was actually involved in financial services from the mortgage side at that time, which is about the time that I got into mortgages at that time. So it was like, you had like the interest-only ARMs and adjustable rate mortgages, and everybody was doing subprime mortgages, and that was a big thing at that time, which caused a lot of that headache and hardship that kind of got felt. So,
and I think because they were, and again, I don't like to make excuses for myself, so that's why I just took it as an L.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems generating the leads. That's never been my issue. Never was then. It's not now. But due to the lending restrictions that they imposed on banks and mortgage companies and so forth, that's where the problem lied. That's where I was having issues getting people to the finish line.
Yeah.
And it sucked, but that was just the reality of things. And I could have sat there and dwelled on it, the market conditions, and I'm like, nah, that's an L, learn from it.
Yeah.
Got into other industries. I was able to prove myself, learn some skills, some experience, and now I'm back in it.
So what kind of goes into curating the type of clients that you help now? What does that look like?
Well, I kind of deal with pretty much everyone. So I don't have a specific buyer per se, even though a lot of my content does focus on people relocating to the state of Florida. So if you look at a lot of my marketing material is based on that. So that was kind of my first group that I wanted to focus on.
Okay.
But within that group, you'll have pretty much different buy boxes from, your first-time home buyer starting at $300,000 to your multi-million-dollar buyers. they all kind of fall within that.
Right. So how do you go about personalizing your service that makes you stand out from your competitors now?
So, well, a couple of ways, right? For one, I do provide a concierge service. I'm a big believer in building relationships over transactions. And I also know that a lot of times people forget, what you said to them, what you did for them, but what they don't forget is how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So I focus a lot of that, of what I provide and the value that I bring to them based on how I make them feel, which comes down to the relationship building, just the whole process, making it as smooth as possible. And a lot of times they're relocating to the area, besides just showing them the houses, I might take them for a quick bite, let's say at a local restaurant. I want them to experience what that lifestyle really looks like.
Okay.
So it's like a one-stop shop almost.
Tell me this, give me a story, like a memorable story of, a client that you've worked with in the past that really kind of stood out, like that's your typical case that you love to really run into that situation.
Absolutely. I had a client that's, we haven't closed on the property yet because it's under construction. It's a new build at 1.5 mil. And he found me through my social media. He had started his search before, talking to me. But after we sat down, we spoke for a little bit. I was able to identify, his lifestyle needs, what was important to him, what was important to the spouse, who the decision maker, was, points of interest, buy box, of course, right, price point. And based on that, I was able to kind of narrow down the search and make it a lot easier for him. So through that, we got to even hang out before and after, going under contract, and was able to kind of build that trust and relationship that I look forward to doing with every buyer. And through that, he was able to know, like, okay, this person understands me, knows what I'm looking for, and he felt more confident moving forward with the transaction.
Okay. In your industry, what kind of trends are you noticing now that you're kind of staying aware of or on top of when you're suggesting things to clients?
Well, I think on everybody's top of mind right now, of course, are rates, prices, and so forth, affordability. Other trends that I'm also noticing, of course, is people looking for places with more land, surprisingly.
Yeah.
They want more land. They're tired of what they're seeing in the marketplace.
I'm in that category.
Right?
I'm in that category.
And they're willing to actually go further out.
Yeah.
Whereas before, people wouldn't consider going an hour away from a big metro. Now they're like, hey, listen, if I'm able to get all that, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Those are some of the trends. And also, I would say multi-generational homes are making a big comeback right now due to affordability, right? So these are homes that have an in-law suite or garage apartment where you're able to combine, multiple generations of their one household.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see a lot more either kids moving in with their parents or vice versa.
So in that capacity, how important is like the community and surrounding areas into planning for that aspect?
That I would say is very important, right? I think that's the number one people look for. Of course, they care about the school district, what's happening in the area, and then new construction. They're also looking at if I buy this property because they're concerned with everything they hear in the news, is it going to go up in value over time, right? They're worried about 2008 happening all over again.
Yeah.
Where they're buying high and then all of a sudden, they lose half of their equity.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very important.
My wife grew up in Boston.
Okay.
So she's from the city,
girl, yeah.
and I'm like from the country.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I can get on a truck or jump on a horse bareback and, play in the river or whatever. Like I'm completely fine out in the country. And she's like, yeah, I want no part of that. Like she needs to have a Starbucks close. And
Funny enough, that's usually the combination that I see when it comes to buyers.
Yeah.
It'll be one person that grew up exact same way you did.
Yeah.
And then the other person's like a true city person.
Yeah.
Like I can never leave the city. So there are some pockets, funny enough, that could offer a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Most recently, I just had this happen where one of my clients, his father was looking to buy a property. He wanted acres, 5-10 acres. We went all the way to Ocala.
Okay.
Right. And, he had a decent price range. He was looking anywhere between $800,000 to 1.2.
Yep.
And after going there, we soon realized, like, this is not going to work for his wife. His wife is a city person. He said, shopping. There was no major malls around there, nothing. So we found locations such as Claremont.
Yeah.
You could still find houses that sit on 5 acres.
Yep.
You're still close enough to the activity. You're not too far.
I felt like that about the Mount Verde area.
Mount Verde as well.
Yeah.
Chulugota, which is near, Oviedo and me, it's basically pretty much closed door video. So there's still some pockets that offer that.
So we when we were looking at this property, a big thing, and I was a 5 acre person. I'm like, I want 5 acres minimum.
Well, because then it's agriculture, right? So now
well, not only that, I'm allowed to shoot on my land at that point because I'm 5 acres away from another residential, place. So the law says I have to be 5 acres to be able to shoot on my land, unless I'm doing an indoor range, which I'm not out of the, not out of the question. So, that was exactly where I was looking. So we actually looked at a place in Mount Verde that I love.
Yeah.
But she was like, oh, it's like a 40-minute drive to work. And I'm like, so what? Like, enjoy it. You're in a luxury SUV. Right. Like, enjoy your 40 minutes to work. Exactly. Who cares? You know what I mean? Yeah. So to be able to get out and have that peace at home. I want to be close enough to the city that I can get there when I want to do stuff. Right. But I want to be able to get out of it and enjoy my peace at home. Like, this is my sanctuary. So that 5 acre spot was right where I was trying to be.
What prompted you to want to start looking for 5 acres under the sun? Because I'm assuming before that, obviously, you did not live in a 5 acre.
Yeah, so I lived in Bellalago, and that's what got me like I am dead set against the HOA at this point because it was just we went back and forth like so many times on so many different subjects.
And they still raising their HOA.
Yeah, it wasn't the price though. It's not the price. It's just like if I want to go in the backyard and build a shed. Yeah. Then I want to go build a damn shed. Like I'm paying $1 million for this property. Like if I want to build a shed in the back, I want to build a shed in the back. So, that I moved up here to this area, the Bay Hill area, and less restrictive HOA, but still that restrictive to that point. Like, you got to do this if you want to. And I'm like, all right, next property, I'm not dealing. I want to find someone with no HOA. So the place that we bought here in Bay Hill was not my ideal place still. Okay. I'm like, yeah, it's sitting on an acre. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I want. Right. And then we get it, and same thing, HOA, can't build on it, nothing, no structure besides the house and
the
everything.
Part is, 1 acre, it feels like a lot, but it's not.
Oh,
right?
no, absolutely.
People think 1 acre, because a lot of times I hear people like, "What doesn't look like acre?" No, it's an acre.
Yeah. They
have this imagination where an acre is like this huge.
Yeah, no, it's really not. Once you got the house that's almost 5,000 square feet, then you got the pool and the little deck out back with the pizza oven and a fire pit, and that's pretty much the yard that's taken up. Right. Like there's your acre with a long driveway on the other side. So. Yeah, it's not a lot. I think 5 is that sweet spot. So getting to that point is that's the next move. I told her we got like 3 years in this place. Then I'm gonna flip it and move on to what I want. Like I'm like, hey, whatever you're gonna do. So all I'm doing is really making upgrades. I added wine cellars, built a theater out.
I'm curious, is any part of it, because I feel like I'm seeing a trend with people kind of going that route, and a lot of times that's to do with being self-sufficient, meaning they want their own garden.
Yeah, no, 100%, right? Absolutely.
So I wonder if like what's been happening in the last few years between COVID and now that has led to more people just thinking that way, kind of changing.
And I think that it's kind of the general population is starting to wake up to really like the things that are being put in the food. And, they're a lot more health conscious than they were, 15, 20 years ago. So that the ideal of having, 1 or 2 greenhouses outside. And for me, the whole 5 acre piece is saying like, I know for a fact I want 3 different properties outside of the living space. So I want a big garage that I can, do my woodworking and a gym that's built in there that I want, a place for the toys, the 4-wheelers and the cars and the motorcycle and everything that I have. So, having those dedicated spaces, that's the big thing for me is dedicated space. I don't want to have my garage is converted to a gym or my, the spare bedroom is converted to a theater room. Like, no, I want dedicated spaces to achieve, what I want to do.
Would you add livestock? Like maybe some chickens, cows.
If the tax benefit is there, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know a cow on the property makes it agricultural, so you get some write-off and everything like that. So absolutely, I would. I'd have something there.
I'm more of the city person. My wife is somebody who would love to have like a big piece of land. And I told her like, look, I'm willing to go that route, but if we are going to go that route, we're going to do it right. Meaning, I'm going to have all that. I'm going to have the livestock, the garden, vegetables, and we're going to have to bring somebody from your country to do all that because I'm not doing it. Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to build them a casita.
Yeah.
We live in there, getting paid to take care of the land, and that's how we would operate. That's one way I would consider going that route.
What strategies would you say that you employ to make sure that your clients receive the best transaction possible when it goes through it? Because we know it can kind of be a headache jumping through the hoops and dealing with the banks, especially when you're financing. So what does that look like?
I think because I'm well-rounded pretty much through all the steps of a transaction, right? Like I said, I have the mortgage background. I have the real estate background. So for me, I'm a problem solver. So a lot of times I'm able to foresee a problem before it occurs and I'm able to find solutions to it to make the transactions as smooth as possible. Of course, in real estate, you're always going to have curveballs. But I think dealing with somebody who is well-versed in different areas of the real estate transaction is going to help him kind of piece everything together and get you to the finish line.
So, what you're saying is essentially it's very important to have that open line of communication and trust that's established with yourself as well, to be able to provide the right guidance and things along that line.
And partnering with the right, lender, the right title company and so forth, because obviously they play a crucial role in their transaction. So if you're just dealing with any lender, that could be problematic as well, right? How do you a lot of hands in a pot? So
how do you stay up to date with what you're saying with the changes to laws and regulation in the industry? Like what is your go-to source to keep on top of that stuff?
So of course we have our association, right? The National Realtors Association. They're a great source for any changes in the law. They obviously, of course, even help create some of these laws, right, in the legislature. I would say between that, I try to attend at least 1 or 2 seminars or conferences per month to stay up to date as well, real estate related conferences and seminars. And I also do a lot of reading, so I'm subscribed to all types of journals, like the Orlando Business Journal, things of that sort, just to kind of have a holistic view of everything that's happening in the city, but also in the real estate industry.
What role would you say technology plays in the aspect of your industry now with how you service your clients?
I would say a lot more than it did in the past, in many different ways. Of course, you have your typical, your DocuSigns and all that, right? How they sign paperwork and how they come across certain paperwork. But I would say also just the communication level, right? Everything now is kind of done through text, email, FaceTime. A lot of times, right, if they're out of state, you may want to FaceTime them or some certain types of video. And even the way you market it to them, right? That's why I'm leveraging social media, because one of my goals was to stay top of mind. So I feel like the traditional ways of staying top of mind through mailers, open houses and so forth are becoming,
antiquated. Absolutely.
So I think social media is the new wave, so you got to stay on top of that. Just kind of like how we had the .com era and every business owner who decided to not partake in it was left behind. I think the same thing is happening in today's era with social media and so forth.
I think it's interesting how much artificial intelligence is going to play a role going forward. I truly believe it's going to touch every industry in some capacity. Correct. I mean, I've seen now with, when you list a property, I know some of the laws and restrictions about, how many generated images I can have in a showing or whatever, but the level at what they're able to do now with the AI, I was playing with a app last week and we're talking about redesigning one of the spare rooms that we use as a game room, and it's just like snaps some pictures and then it throws it all together with the furniture and everything. I'm like,
yeah,
it's only a matter of time before somebody, commoditizes that and says, hey, how do we do this? And it designs all of that, but links it with where I can buy all of the, things from. And we're starting to see some of that. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Apple Vision Pro and those things. So they've got apps like JW is in there, IKEA is in there, where you can slap it on and like you can have your own closet in JW and picking out your clothes and everything and order them, and it's showing them what they would look like on you. I mean, it's crazy, man. So, I feel like it's going to be a very interesting piece on how it touches
Oh yeah.
all the other industries and what capacity?
I think a lot of realtors are already leveraging OpenAI and all that, Chat GPT and so forth. Obviously, some of them are using it for even like listing presentations, for example, marketing material. Pretty much, like you said, the capabilities are endless, and it is going to touch every industry in some form or another. So I personally look forward to it. I used to be the person that hated technology.
Yeah.
I would shy away from it. And I learned pretty quickly. I'm like, if you don't kind of catch on,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's why nowadays I'm a lot more, I try to become a student of the game always. Try to, whatever comes out, I want to be the first one to learn.
Right. How do you approach the financial aspect of a new purchase and what that looks like to a client? What does that process look like for you?
Well, a couple of things. I think if it comes down to them asking me for financial advice, for one, I don't provide it, right? I am not a licensed financial advisor. So in that situation, if they're asking for advice, I will try to see if they're already working with financial advisors. And if they're not, I'll try to, introduce them to one.
Okay.
But I try to focus more so in my line of work, things that are more related to real estate rather than advice based on finances.
Okay.
Even though I understand and I have the background for it, I don't want to overstep.
What advice would you give to someone that's looking to maybe become an investor in real estate as part of their portfolio, looking for, maybe multifamily property opportunities and those things?
So I consider myself more of a general practitioner, where I've done a little bit of everything from commercial to residential to land and so forth. But if it's something very specific to a certain specialty, I usually partner up with other people in those industries, or in that, for example, if it's multifamily or if it's, let's say, on something commercial. Rather than me handling it, I'd rather refer, just like a general doctor, if you will refer you to a specialist, I'll probably refer someone who specializes in just that. Because I want them to get the same level of service that I would provide, right, from somebody who specializes in that field.
What about as far as like people who are wanting to have some sort of legacy with their property? They're looking for specific property, and we were kind of touching on it a little bit earlier, that generational property where I can have, are you finding that's becoming more of a commonality in what clients are looking for?
To be honest with you, I haven't came across it yet. I do think it's going to become a bigger and bigger thing as we continue on, but I haven't dealt with that just yet.
I would think it would be, just from the capacity of where interest rates are now and everything, where if I can get, the same concept of multifamily, but if I can get, if I can buy, like I was talking earlier, if I can get 5 acres and I can put 2 or 3 houses on these 5 acres, that's for my family, and being able to have us all within that where we're sharing some of that cost and everything, it makes sense where the interest rates and loans and everything are right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you're seeing those multi-generational families that I was talking about earlier. Those are making a big comeback. But then there's still that separation to a certain degree. Like, I think families want to help each other out. I think over the years, they've kind of got used to that. In the U.S., I'm from overseas.
Yeah.
Where we focus a lot more on collectivism, whereas here in the U.S., you guys focus more on individualism.
Yeah.
Where it encourages and promotes, people kind of going out on their own and kind of not having to work together as one. So I think it is going to make a comeback, and you're going to start seeing a lot more of it. I just personally, at least with the clients that I've dealt with in the last few years, I haven't seen it as much.
What do you think are some of the common concerns that you've seen from clients in general?
Their concern is, again, the 2008 repeating itself.
Yeah.
Affordability and rates. Those would be the main 3 concerns that they all have. A lot of times they'll tell me, I'm not in a rush. I'm just kind of just exploring. And I explain to them, like, look, not being in a rush could be advantageous to you under the right market conditions. Today's market is not one of them.
Right.
It's a seller's market.
Yeah.
So you taking your time is not going to get you a better deal.
Yeah.
If anything, you end up paying more for the same house.
Right.
If we were in a buyer's market, then absolutely, I'll say, hey, let's see what else is out there. Let's wait it out.
Now, did you hear about the whole process with the government passing a law that hedge funds can no longer own single-family residences, and how much of that BlackRock controlled, and then enhanced the law even more that they have to offload all of that property, because they were holding, like 44% of single-family residences were owned by BlackRock alone, you know, not combining the other hedge funds. So it's realistically probably close to 50% of the market.
Yeah.
With them having to offload all of that inventory now, what do you think that does to the marketplace?
It'll definitely alleviate some of the pressure, right? We'll definitely have more inventory in the market, and it will create a more balanced market. I don't think it's going to create a buyer's market per se, depending on how quickly they offload it.
Right. I think they gave them a timeline of 5 years.
5 years. So yeah, it's going to be a nice, slow, yeah. So I think if they do it that way, we should be fine. I would be more worried if they
just flooded it all like,
yeah.
What would you say, what are your predictions for the future of the real estate market in our general area right here in Central Florida?
I think I have the same concern as many locals. I think I feel like Florida in general, and as even more specifically Orlando, it might turn into the next New York or California, where you're going to have this disparity between those who own and those who could only rent due to affordability. I think we're slowly getting there. So that's why I usually tell people, like, look, if you're ready to buy and able, you know, you should consider buying for sure. You know, don't wait it out. Because you could become one of those people.
I think it's very interesting from the financial aspect of the industry in general. You know, it always kind of seems to baffle me, and one way or the other, like, I'm not 100% surprised, but also, as I see in my industry, the lack of financial education that's applied to the general public and population about purchasing a home and the benefits and being able to leverage and utilize that. And what's always baffling to me is the aspect of, like, 9 times out of 10, you can afford the mortgage more than you can the rent for the property. You know, I've got a lot more flexibility on this side, and there's a lot more options when it comes to that.
They just not willing to give up some of the luxuries. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, so there's certain apartments that could be pretty luxury for the price point, and they're looking at houses at that same mortgage price point. They're like, oh, it's not as outfitted as what I have right now. Even though you're getting more space, more everything, you're able to build equity. And I think that's where that whole, again, individualistic and just kind of being more self-centered rather than looking at the big picture plays into effect.
Absolutely. All right. So final question to kind of wrap this up. What do you find that keeps you motivated? What do you most enjoy about what it is that you do now?
I would say the relationship building.
Okay.
I'm a people's person. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy building relationships. I enjoy helping and guiding people into making, you know, important decisions such as buying real estate. And what keeps me going is between looking forward to meeting new people and, like I said, building those relationships, is also creating. Like, part of what I enjoy is the marketing aspect of it. You know, it's like a nice challenge for me.
Yeah.
Always looking to outdo what I did before, and how can I get a better reach? How could I become the best marketer out there?
Okay. I find it interesting within the topic, you know, in my industry, how it applies a lot is, you know, when I'm working with clientele and when I'm reaching out to prospects, I've learned very shortly I am an educator at heart. Like, I'm like, I want to teach you the things that I know, because I know these things are good for you, and it applies to whatever industry it is that I'm involved in, you know. So understanding that, but I definitely feel teachers are one of the most undervalued professions in our society. Right. You know, they are so set up to be such a huge part of the future of the youth, but the lack of education that applies to real world is the frustrating part, you know. So I've learned that I can't be in that role because, you know, unfortunately they are just undervalued, underpaid, right? However, I can be an educator in my own capacity in my role at where I am and still be able to pursue other aspects of the industry and everything.
And I think if you, and I'm sure obviously you're doing it the right way, because you have a podcast and many other forms that you're able to communicate this message to the masses.
Right.
I think that's the important part, right? If you were in a classroom, you kind of limit it to those 25 students, whereas now you're able to educate thousands, hundreds of thousands and millions.
Yeah. How many lives can you touch?
Exactly.
How many lives can you touch?
I think to add to that, I would say the impact part of it is also what's driving force behind what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, from somebody of your perspective, like, you're touching not only the the family that you're helping buy the house, but their kids and the next generation, and you know how long the house stays in that family, and even when they sell that property, like you put them in the right position that they were able to leverage it and put them in a property that was going to grow in value to help their family move on. I mean, it's touching a lot of lives when you really get to boil it all down in what capacity.
That's very true. Right.
You know. All right. I want to appreciate you. Thank you for coming on to the show, man. It's been a blast understanding your industry and what capacity it is that you do. You know, very, very humbled to be in that, and just thank you, man.
Thank you, Chance. Thank you for having me. It's been a great time talking about pretty much everything that we covered today.
All right. Eager to learn more about planning your retirement? Then check out this video where we take tax strategies to the next level.